Welcome to People Love Process. This movie is our 10th episode of Over-the-Shoulder Vector Building. Now, in previous episodes, I've taken old sketches or unused ideas and brought them to life in Adobe Illustrator. This one's going to be a little different in that this is a project I'm currently going through. So this sketch isn't unused. I just haven't created it yet. So I decided to capture the creative process and give you a sneak peek at something technically before my client's going to see it. Now, obviously, once I publish this, it'll be fully public by that point. But I thought this would be another way to show you how I really work. Everything I've shown you before is exactly the processes I use and the methodology I use to create different designs and illustrations and everything in between. But this is specifically a logo project. So that's what I want to take you through right now. So let's get started. So the sketch you see in front of you is one of three design directions, at least three. I quoted a specific amount that I'm going to deliver to this client. Now, this is a client I've worked with before on a different project, and this is his own personal business that he's starting with someone in his family. And this is going to be not a craft brewer, but it will be craft brewed mead. I don't know if you know what mead is. Just Google it and you can see what it's all about. Usually it's made with honey. And so one of the ideas that he provided that I thought would be worth exploring is to use a raven. So his family name is the brand name, and it's derived from Nordic culture. So he wanted a raven, and I thought a raven would be a cool one. So this is one design direction I drew out. Now, you might be wondering about these weird kind of hieroglyphic looking things. All that is Nordic runes. So if I show you this just shows a handful of them, 9 specifically, and what they mean: courage, energy, good luck, grace, health, love, protection, safe travel, and strength. So he suggested maybe I could work some of these in. So I'm going to see how that goes. And I'm going to ultimately show you the other two design directions I'm presenting as well. So not the way I would handle the runes. I think those are kind of wedged in there. So I'm going to rethink this, but we're going to go ahead and build this. So I always drop a guide in there since this is going to be not a symmetric design. It's not that, but just so it aids in the process of creating. So first we're just going to grab the sketch and I'll go ahead and adjust this. Usually I do about 20% just so I could see it, lock the layer, and we're going to build on this layer here. So let's go ahead. I like to zoom in as much as I can here. And I think on this one, we're going to start. I'm going to go to my graphic styles because I have certain size styles for strokes. And I always start with magenta. We're going to just go ahead and use the elliptical tool to create the circle here. The more I'm thinking about this, I'm not so sure a circle's the best option here, but we'll try it to begin with to see what it looks like. The key with this is I want all the same thickness of all of these. Now, there's some people that might attempt this by just grabbing the pen tool, and like if you started here, we go like this. I would think you'd want, well, we'll try it without. We'll do this. We'll go here and here. Like that. That might be the rough build. You can come back with the anchor point tool. You can adjust these like this. I'm showing you how I wouldn't build it in this case because I found some things strokes work great for, more geometric, but when you have more organic line work, you run into all kinds of mitering issues that they don't look graceful, and they're hard to fix, and you have to expand in order to fix them. So let's say you build a stroke like this and you go, well, we'll just establish the weight. And so you go in here, and that doesn't look horrible, But just notice how this is a nice curve, and then once it gets to the area that's associated with the anchor, instead of that curve keep curving, it goes straight. And I don't know why. I think they could fix this if they really dialed into the code, because you run into it back here. The curve goes okay at the top, but as soon as it hits the area associated with this anchor on the corner, it goes straight. And you might not even be able to see it that much, but if you expand this, let's go ahead and expand it like that. This is what I'm talking about. It gets to this point in the curve, and then it goes straight. And that just looks horrible. And so I would rather build this with shapes. But the way I'd fix this, I might as well just show you since I'm this far. So let's turn it. Oops. First, I think we have a group going on here. Let's go to appearance. Yeah. So let's ungroup it, and I'll just turn it to a path. And I'm going to zoom in. And by the way, you can't do this natively in Illustrator. So this is another reason why I'd say if you don't have plugins, you wouldn't want to use this approach. You're just asking for all kinds of extra work that just to get good craftsmanship. But in this case, I have used this method for certain types of builds. Then I go in, I cut it right where the curve goes wacky. So instead of it curving, keep going down, it goes straight. And then I'll get rid of this. We're going to go to this back one because this one's the same way here. And we'll just go ahead and cut this. And I'm going to cut it there, select that, and give it away. Now, this is a great plugin by Astute Graphics. And if Adobe was smart, they've tried to buy Astute Graphics twice, but they're cheap. They don't want to cover severance on their employees, which I think is just stupid. But they have a great tool under the Vector Scribe plugin. It's called the Extend Path tool. It's not something you're going to use every day, but oh my gosh, it makes life so much easier. If I go here now with that tool, I can extend this out here. I can take this and watch. It will continue that geometry on a curve. It won't go straight. That's what I love about it. So we do that. I go back here with the pen tool and I just close out that shape. I go to this one. We go to that Extend Path tool again, and notice it's continuing the geometry, and it's showing both the top and the bottom beak path, how it will project if you drag it out like that. And then I would close it kind of like this. Once I get that, then I'll just use Pathfinder and Unite, and that allows me to select these objects here and clean it up. So you could build it this way if you want, but notice this one's wonky too. I'd have to go in and fix this, and even these. So I'd have to go and fix that. So it's a lot of fixing that you have to do after the fact, after you expand it. So that's why I wouldn't do it that way. Is it possible? Yes, but the only way to do it with this kind of precision is with the plugin Vector Scribe, specifically with the Extend Path tool. Really cool feature. I love that tool. When I need it, it's a lifesaver, and it saves me a lot of time. But you would think natively, if you expand a path, this is the math they could code, so it would prevent doing that. I think they could do it, but because nobody uses the software that develops the software at Adobe for Illustrator specifically in vector art, it's never going to happen. So I just wanted to show you that. So let's go ahead and delete this. I'll show you how I approach building these things. And I usually start, it's always better on offset path to create the outside shape and then offset negative number to get the inside shape. So on this head, I'd want to build this exterior line on the head before I built tried to attempt to build the inner part. It just works better, I've found, to approach it that way. So that's what we're going to do here. And I use a combination of both raw tools in Adobe Illustrator, native tools that is, obviously the pen tool, but I also use some plugins. And one of those plugins that I use all the time now is called Arch by Points, because I can just select an area. I usually start on a corner wherever something comes to a point, and then Go like this, determine probably right about there, and then you can just curve it. It just makes the process so much easier. I might adjust this a little bit. Go there and just move it over. It's kind of like that. Now, I don't like having perfectly straight lines in any of my designs like this. I don't want these straight. I think these should even have a subtle curve to it. So I'll do the same thing like there, just put a subtle curve. And then I could try to do it with the same tool to go the arch on his head, but let's just go back to native tools. And I go here to this corner like that, grab the anchor point tool, and then you could just grab the path, reveal the Bezier handles, and then you could build this. I think it's a shallow enough curve that we don't need another anchor point in between these two. Kind of like that. Now, if I go back to the I always forget what this is called, the Arch by Points tool. Then I kind of click here, and you can see it's going to give you a perfect curve. And this drawing isn't perfect, and I like the drawing better than I like what the tool is suggesting. So even though I use plugins, I don't always go with what they provide. So in this case, I don't want an anchor point there, so I'm going to click Smart Remove. And if you don't have a plugin, you can do this in Illustrator. You just have to highlight the anchor you want to remove, and then you have to select the this tool, the minus pin tool, hold Shift down with that anchor point selected, and click it, and then you can smart remove it. It's not as intuitive as Astute's method, but that's how you do it. But in this case, it doesn't really matter because we're going to just adjust this to get the profile of that beak shape I want. I think that looks good. Go back to this tool, click here, figure out that angle, click here. And this one, I'm purposely not going to go here because I'm going to use this edge and create it with the wing shape that I'm going to eventually create. So you always want to be thinking ahead. So I'll do this, and I'll go probably right about here. Doesn't really matter since we're going to chop that off anyway. And that is, actually, we don't need that one. Let's undo that. So this would be the, now that I'm thinking about it, and I do this why I create anyway, is I'm going to go ahead and close this shape. We'll come back to that because this shape is going to inform on this shape, and this shape will determine what thickness I actually use up here. Let's get a rough idea. I'm going to go up here, and I'll select this, and I'll align this to the top edge of the head shape like that. I'll just slide it over, and then I'll go here. What is that? That is, 10 would probably be a good 10 points. So I like using whole numbers as much as I can. So we'll try 10. So I'm going to go down here. This is a circular shape here. So I'll just start with the elliptical tool like this. And here's another thing I do at times, and actually this might be a good case to argue that. Let's go back to layers. I'm going to unlock my sketch, select it. I'm going to clone it, Command-C, Command-F. I'm going to drag it over here. And I'll show you another plugin that's part of, is it Vector Scribe or is it Subscribe? I can't remember. I think it's Subscribe. It's called the Orient tool. It's kind of cool. If I go ahead and select the Orient tool, and let's see, I'm just going to guesstimate here. I'll go, I think I'll do this side. I'll go here, click there, and I'm just determining this edge of this wing, these wing shapes here. And it will set the coordinates. Then if I hold Shift down, it'll rotate it to those coordinates. So now it's at 90 degrees. It's always easier to build vector shapes, geometric shapes that is, because that's essentially what these are geometric shapes, if you build at 90 degrees. So we'll go back to the build layer, and all I'm going to do is zoom in on the wing, because we can build it horizontally and then just rotate it into place in our final design. It's just going to make the process easier. They're trying to build everything at an angle. Kind of makes it go slower because it's easier to make mistakes. So always be thinking, what's the easiest way I can, well, at least that's the way I think. I don't like wasting time, so I try to think of a better way to do things. We're going to go smaller here with the stroke size. Like that. You can see my drawing's not perfect, doesn't have to be. Dynamic corners is the rounding tool, and I love it because I can start with a circle like this. Now, if you're using the corner widget in Illustrator, you'd start with a square, and then you'd have to round this side to get the same thing. So it's not hard. You just have to think in shapes and create in shapes. So I'm going to go all the way down here, kind of like that. Well, actually, we need to go further. That point goes a little further than that. So we'll go, I'm kind of paying attention to that point there. Now we'll select this shape, and I'm just going to do an offset path. And because this is so geometric, you're not going to run into the problem you would if, like, I tried to do the head to that, built the inside and then do the outside. Those only happen when you have more free-flowing shapes like the head is. This is all purely geometric here. So we're going to set this one to minus 10. We can preview it. Oh, wait, no. 10. What am I talking? Minus would go to the inside like that. And I think it's thinner than my sketch, but I think that's going to work. Let me just out of curiosity, I'm going to clone this, bring it up here just to get an idea if that's going to. Yeah, I think that's, I can always beef it up later with a stroke if I have to, but I think that's going to work. And then I'll drag this past like that. Make sure this is on top. And then I'll just go Pathfinder minus front. So we've created a giant U. Now, the other part is determining what this gap is going to be in between, like the head and the wing, in between the back edge of the head and the front part of the bird. Even this gap, I want this gap here in the legs to be the same size as the gap in the wings, same size as the gap between the head and the shoulder, and same size between the back of the head and the front breast of the bird. So those are things I always pay attention to. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of figure out first what angle I want to do. And I don't think this angle matters because this is going to be, well, see, now I'm second guessing myself. That's okay. We're going to go like this. Yeah, those angles are different. So I'm going to figure out this angle. That'll establish it. And then I'll just use a stroke here to get the width we want. So we'll figure out the gaps. Half a 10, that's too small. Maybe 7. 7, the magical number. Okay, I think that'll work. Then I'll clone this, drag it over. Actually, let's do this. Let's go ahead and expand these, or go to path and go outline stroke so we can see what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to do a little beta test here. So I'm going to select these and clone them. Deselect the giant U, unite these. Just so you can see what I'm doing, I'll fill these with blue. Select this one, minus front. Fill it with yellow. all I want to do is I want to test how long these are in the back here. So those go a little bit further. So we're going to select this. I'll snap it there and slide it up. Okay. So I think that will work. So I can get rid of these. Don't need these now. Okay. And then I'll pull these in since we'll trim them like that. Now that I'm thinking, I just realized something. I need to check this because I might change that dimension now between the gaps. I'm going to go like this. And what will determine it will be whatever I end up with here. Might not be a whole number, but that's okay. If I go like this, now if we blend this, just Option, Command, or I believe on a PC is Alt, B, create a blend. I know I want 2 steps, so we'll go to the shape blending tool, click into it. And I wish by default I could set this to always show specified steps. It always defaults to smooth colors, which I never even use. I have never used that in 20 years. So, but I use steps all the time. So we'll go 2. There we go. And you can see it establishes a gap. So we're going to figure out what that gap is. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this. Might have to ungroup it a few times. Get rid of this top one and bottom one. All I want to pay attention to is what this gap is in here. So let's see how close it is to 10. Okay, it's 8.1027, so that's what we're going to use. That's okay. So what I'm going to do, I'll go like this, and just so I don't confuse myself, I'll color it blue. Snap it there. Set the orientation, rotate this until it snaps into place. So you can see the blue one's a little wider. That's fine. But that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to select this, clone it, Command-C, Command-F. You can use the duplicate button on the contextual menu bar, which I always have turned off by default because it's clutter. It gets in my way. Clone it again, slide this one over, and snap it into place. So we've lost a little length on what these segments will be, but that's okay. So now I know that the shapes that will be the same height as this piece and this piece will have the same gap in between them. So that's how I'd figure that out. Now, by the way, let's go ahead and do this. We'll select this. I'll clone it again, Command-C, Command-F, snap it to this one because we're going to have to come up here, and you can see my drawing was a little taller, so that's fine. We'll use that like this. We'll go ahead and select all these, and actually, no, I'll deselect those, just these ones, and I'll go Unite. Okay, now all I'm going to do now is I'm going to make copies of this, so I'll go ahead and do that. I should have left those. I don't know why I didn't. I should have left those because now let's do this. It's 8.1027. Okay. We'll go 8.1027. So these are the gaps that we have. If I was smart, I would have kept the shapes that I duplicated. I wasn't thinking. Okay, we'll do that. So that gives us 1, 2, 3 pieces there. That's fine. So select this, clone it, Command-C, Command-F. I just use a keyboard shortcut like that. Okay, that's fine. Select these. We don't need those. Get rid of them. And we're just going to drag this over so it gets, we'll be able to lop it off once we start trimming shapes. Okay, so I think we have it all figured out here. This one's not going to go over the outside of the wing, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim this shape. And these are throwaway shapes. These are for no other reason than to build the primary shapes. They'll be part of the actual design. Okay, now we can go ahead and select these pieces, unite them. And actually, now that I'm thinking, it's at this point, if I go back to layers, you can see I already have stuff there because that's the other two designs I created. So this is a copy of my build file. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to clone it because I did a lot of work here. And if I don't like how it comes out, I can always come back to this stage. So I group it once I clone it, and then I just move it to X and drop it in my vector junk drawer. Okay, we'll bring this to the front now. We'll fill it with blue. Make sure it's above everything. Select this. Go minus front. And we forgot to fuse these with this. So let's do that. Then select this. Then edit it. That gives us all the pieces we need. We can ungroup it. We'll bring this to the front. Go ahead and fill it. Make a copy. We'll do this one. And we'll do this one. So now we have all the pieces of that wing in place like that. We just need to do the rounding to detail them. I think that looks kind of nice. It's going to look even better with the rounding. And I might put this at a different angle than these. I don't know. Right now I'm trying to keep them all the continuity going, but that might not matter once we rotate it into place. And I'm going to turn on my sketch layer again because this is based off of that rotation I made. So if I select both that image and that, and then I go back to that, let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. We're kind of zoomed in. Go back to that Orient tool, part of Subscribe by Astute Graphics. And I click here, and then I click here. Now that is back in that exact orientation that I want it to. And so what I could do is I could even drag it down here and snap the sketch to my other sketch. I don't need two sketches, so I can delete that. And now my vector art is in place. Now I built it. We can turn the sketch layer, lock it, that is. So this is now in the right position. So you can see it's just, it'd go a lot faster. Trying to build this at this angle would have just been kind of silly to try to do that. So, you know, one thing I need to do that I should probably do because I'll forget if I don't. We'll go back to that Orient tool. Like this is I'm going to make a reference for myself. And I'll just color this a color I'm not going to use, which is this blue. And this tells me this is the gap. And this one, we'll color it orange. Neither of them need a stroke. So this is the line weight. This is the gap in between the line weight, just so I can select it. And it reminds me it's 8.1027. Normally I try to do whole numbers, but it doesn't really matter in this case. So I'm going to take this now, this shape at the top of the wing. I'm going to offset it. And we'll offset it to, actually, what I usually do is I select this, go here, select this number, copy it to clipboard, select this, go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and just paste in the number. You can preview it. That looks good. Click OK. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to now that I'm looking at this, I'm going to go over here, snap it to that point, and go straight across like that. Then take this, we'll fill it with blue, and we're going to bring it to the front. Select this and trim to get that nice gap. Now, once I have it this far, I know this size is just 10 point. What? Wait a minute. Why does it say 10.1? Did I goof up somehow? I don't think so. Go to the Orient tool. Like that. Just going to make a reference image here. And this says, okay, somehow I got 0.001 in there. I swear I just punched in 10, but whatever. By the time it's used, you'd never notice it anyway. So we'll just go with that. So we'll copy this number. Whatever. Illustrator sometimes just frustrates me. Okay. We're going to go offset, but we're not going to go to the outside. So we're going to punch in a negative, paste in our number. You can preview it. And you can see it adds, well, here it's doing that same thing. Normally it doesn't always do it, but it's doing it here. Okay, well, we're going to have to fix that regardless. So other than the fact that Adobe can't get the math right on these curves and it looks horrible, and we have to fix it and spend more time when we really shouldn't, since it's a digital program, it should be precise. But they don't, again, the problem comes back to the same source. They don't actually use their software. If they did, they would run into it and they go, you know what, we should probably fix that. And if you bring it up, they're like, huh? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you mean. I don't think this one's a problem. So we'll just select that and we'll go Smart Remove like that. This one's a problem. So we're going to have to cut it here because you see this curve should go bend into here, not do that. So we'll get rid of that. We'll go here. This one's even, even though it doesn't look horrible, well, this one does. So I'm going to go ahead and chop that. I'll chop this. We'll just redo it, see what it looks like. And then go in here. It's almost like, why even use offset if it's going to always just muck up your aesthetic. So it got that much of the path right. But the math behind Illustrator, it's like, duh, I don't know what to do. It comes here. I know this one's here, so I guess from this point it goes straight. You know, I don't know the logic in why they can't just get it to, if we go to the Extend Path tool by Astute Graphics, why they can't just continue it so it goes all the way up here. And even on this one, I don't like how straight that looks. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. I'm going to go to the Arch by Points tool. And I'm going to eyeball this because I want this to have ever so slight like that. I think that looks fine. We'll close this. That'll be encompassed. Select this shape, get rid of it. Go back to the Extend Path tool. Extend this here. Extend this here. This one will extend down here. And this will extend all the way over here. Well, this continued. Oops. I should have deselected before I did that. This one's fine. We'll extend this one over here and this over here. And this one, we can bring up, we don't need it to go down that far. Okay. Actually, on this one, I'm going to stop it right where my drawing is. Maybe a little thinner. Move this one over. Again, I'm eyeballing this part. I don't think it's going to matter. And I'm going to Command U to turn off so it doesn't try to snap to the guide. Something like there, but again, I want a subtle curve on this. Like that. Close that shape. Close that, or path that is at this point. Close that. And then we're going to go down to this one. I'll just cut them here with the scissor tool. Grab the extend path. And this one, I'm going to go all the way down like this. And this is going to look weird, but I'm doing it for a reason. I'm going to go like this. You might be going, huh? Why'd you do that? Well, you'll see. I'll go unite. Then these elements we don't need on these corners, we can just get rid of them. There's a lot of viral videos out on Illustrator now with reels being pushed so hard by mainly by Facebook because they want to be TikTok, but they never will be, and they don't realize that. My little commentary on social media. You'll see a lot of content creators who will go and, wagging your finger at you and say, no, don't do it this way. Use the I don't know, whatever, join tool or whatever. That's just waste time having to change tools all the time. That's one thing fundamentally different between Illustrator and Macromedia Freehand, which I used for 15 years, is you could do almost everything regarding vector points and paths and Bezier curves with one tool. They didn't have 3 different selection tools. You could do it all with one tool. And so it made the process faster. It was simpler. And you never had any issues with compound paths in Illustrator. They're very inconsistent with it. Frankly, Illustrator doesn't like compound paths. I don't know why. Once again, if they actually use their software, they'd realize why I love compound paths. So now what I'm going to do is, the reason why I build it this way is because this isn't matching what my drawing is. So the easiest way to do that is I'll just go, oops, I have to Command U, turn Smart Guides back on so it will snap on a path. So I snap right there, and then I can just adjust this to get that tapering I want. Something like, I kind of turn my head at times because it's easier to figure it out. So something like that. And that looks a lot better than that inside shape, inset, or using. See, the problem with that feature is offset is what they call it. But offset implies you're offsetting from something. Whereas when you do it from the inside, it's technically, and you're insetting it from a shape. We insetted here, and whether you offset or inset, at times based off of the mitering of the curves and the angles, you're going to get those weird kind of where it goes straight. It's just a pain in the butt. But the only way to do it precisely is to kind of go back to the old school methods I've found. So I think that is looking really good. I'm not going to knock it through the back shape at this point. I'll just keep building some other content. We'll come back to that because I'm still not sure about my nesting shape, meaning the circle for everything. I don't know if I want that. So once again, I guess we're using 10.001 as our tolerance. So I'm just going to go offset. We'll stick with that. Here's another thing I don't get. Why, you have this and the bounding box is straight. Why does it do that? I don't know. Nobody can explain it to me. I've asked this years ago when I first started. Why? I didn't change that. Why did it rotate the bounding box? Because it's Illustrator. That's the way it is. Now, if you don't know about it, you can always go up to Object, Transform, and, well, most of the time you can just reset the bounding box. For whatever reason, it's grayed out. Wait, is this grouped? No, it's just a path. Why is it graying out the reset? I don't know. Here's another kind of workaround. Just go to graphic styles, Pathfinder, hit Unite, and it'll reset your bounding box. Why you couldn't do that? Well, now it says, now have it fix it. It says, you want to reset it? No, I already did it myself because you wouldn't do it. Oh, you got to love Illustrator. Sometimes it makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, so we have the head, we have the wing. The last thing I'll do is rounding, because even where it comes to these sharp points, I'll go and put really subtle rounds on those because I think it'll look better. So I think we're going to go ahead and create the breast of the bird. Say that really fast. We'll go back to the Arch by Points tool, part of subscribe. And I'll go up here and I'm going to build the inside shape, kind of like this. It's kind of too fat. I like building it narrower so I can see it. There's a really cool old movie that I think it starred Boris Karloff and Peter Lorre called The Raven. If you've never watched that, it's like these two wizards and they get in a fight with magical powers. But it was like way before any kind of really good special effects like CGI or digital was around. But it's pretty funny to watch now. I just realized I have some feathers in the wing we built that I actually don't need. We don't need this guy or this guy. Now that I'm looking at this is way far away, so we're going to have to use that extend path. And I'm going to go past where I know the gap will be, like that. Now it's at this point I'd take a shape like this, I'd clone it. I'll just change colors so you can see it. And then I'll just close the shape like that. You don't have to. Actually, let's undo that. You don't have to do that. I just do that at times because you can just take a path and do an offset of the path. It'll just do it on both sides. So if we go here, let's once again go up here and reference our number. And I'll copy it to the clipboard, come back here, select the path, go offset, punch in the number, preview it. Good job, Illustrator. And you get this lovely mitering effect. Look at this one. Oh my God, seriously? Okay. We're going to have to clean this up. So I cut it here and cut it here. This other one we don't need, and we don't need the original that we offset. Okay, so this is all messed up. I can show you another way to do this, but again, it requires a plugin. And this is why I use plugins, because you will run into this with Illustrator. And if you don't have plugins, you can do it, but it's going to take... If I didn't have a plugin here, it'd probably take about 20 minutes longer and it wouldn't be absolutely precise. That's why I like plugins. So what I would do here, another way of doing that is I go back to this menu. Instead of using this one, I'd use this first one called Circle by Points tool. You can tell an engineer named it, but it describes what it does pretty well. So on this one, we have a point here and a point here. Those are the only ones I'm going to pay attention to. This one, I don't care about that one. So let's go ahead. We want this to be pink or magenta. We'll select like that. I'll go to the next point and it'll snap on. Then I'll snap on that curve and it will show you what that path should have done. So this is how inaccurate Illustrator is in terms of its code. And all code is math. All vector art is math. And this tells me their code could be improved so the math would be improved and you wouldn't run into this problem. If they can create a plugin that can do this, why can't they do it with these features. And this is a feature. Offset has been around in Illustrator since day one, and they've never updated it. So you could do it this way, but this does show you how inaccurate it performs. But this is a perfect circle, but it does place anchor points where you go here. So this is how I do it. I just rotate it so we have no anchor points. And I rotate it till I get one anchor point where I want it to start. So we'll go right about there. And then I'll just cut it here, and I'll cut it here. And then the rest of it I can just get rid of. So that's one way I could do it. And I could do that same approach down here, just using this anchor point, this anchor point. So I'll grab the tool, I'll click once, define that anchor, click here, snap on that path, the segment in between those two anchors to get that curve worked out. And then just rotate it since it's a circle. So it just gives me one clean line with no anchors in it. And then I can just chop it here. In this case, chop it here, get rid of the rest. And so we have that, And I'm going to do this one might be okay. Yeah, that one looks okay. So that one it didn't have any problem with. So all I'm going to do is go back to this blue one now. We'll cut it here. Cut this one and this one. We won't even use that. Won't even use that. So we're just going to use this piece here. Go back to the extend path tool. And I think we have everything we need to rock and roll. So we'll just go ahead and close that. Close that. Close that. Close that. You know, there was a time where the Illustrator team was very attentive. They'd show up at every design conference and ask us to come into it and help them figure out, or, you know, what are the pain points in Illustrator. And they don't do that so much anymore. At least the engineers that used to do that are no longer part of the team. So I find that a bit unfortunate. So here is where I would do one rounding, because the gap will affect the rounding will affect the gap we use. So you can use the corner widget on this, doesn't matter. But I would probably extend it so that anchor goes past the bottom here. It's going to make it cleaner, because when we lop it off, there won't be an extra little anchor like here and then one right here. I always pay attention to that kind of detail as well. So I think that's fine. This, what's our gap again? It's that number. We'll copy it. And I literally do this in my build files because I'll forget. I'll move on, do whatever. Whoa, what gap are we using? So we'll go offset here. Punch in the number. That gives me this. I can select, oops, make sure it's on top. Select the front part of the bird. And we'll go ahead and, it would help if we select the shape and we trim it. That looks good. We'll do this one eventually. I'm not going to do it right now. Okay, so we're going to build an element that's the width we want here. And this is why I have smart guides turned on. It'll snap to other objects. I don't use alignment guides. I find it highly annoying for certain things. If I'm doing certain things, I want even spaces. They're great. You'll want to use them. It'll save you time. But for this, they're just always activating, and I don't like that. I like it clean and mean. And it always, every time a new version of Illustrator comes out, I'll start using it, and these new little things they put on, what? Like the contextual menu bar. No thanks. I tried it, and I go, yeah, but you should have just made it easy to do this to begin with, and now you're just adding more clutter. And I like having like no clutter in my workflow. Okay, so we're going to set the orientation on rotate here, and I'll figure out a good angle. I think that looks, I might go just a little more down like that. And then I'll just copy this shape since it's the gap. Snap. And this nice thing about orientation, this wasn't always this way. But Smart Guides assist. You want Smart Guides turned on. Command you to turn it on, command you to turn it off. I'm always toggling that on and off based off of what I'm doing. This case, I have it on. I'm going to use the rotate tool, set my focus, this anchor point. Then I can just grab this edge and rotate it until it snaps. Now it's in perfect location. Then I can take a copy of this, Command C, Command F, or use the duplicate key on the contextual menu board like that, and put this in the proper orientation. Delete this. That's just to get our gap. I can select this and just move these up because these will be encompassed into the bottom area of the nesting shape we're using, in this case a circle. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shape just to do an offset with, like this. We'll make a copy of this. I'll intersect it like that. And I can't remember if we did a gap last time. We did. So that's how. But notice this is clean. Like if I was trimming this shape, I wouldn't trim it with this shape. I would like rotate that curve so this anchor would be outside, so it'd be just a smooth edge to that shape. But in this case, we're not having to trim it. This one's going to be fine. We'll trim that. So now we have that gap going there like this. Now that I'm looking at it, the more, actually this, we can get rid of that now. I'm going to go back. I've changed my mind. And I'm just going to edit this. Always art direct yourself. If you see something that's bugging you, don't ignore it. Many times that's because your eye is and this is one skill that they don't really teach, but it naturally develops over time as you work. And you'll see something, you'll go, that looks off. Well, why did you think that? Did a teacher tell you how to look at things and determine if something looks off? No. But you build the sixth sense, and that's what you want to pay attention to as you're creating. So we're going to go back to the Arch by Points tool here. And this one, I just think it'd look better. We'll still put a subtle curve on it like that. But we're trimming off some of that because it was pinching down here, and this will give it a little more breathing room. So I think that'll work better. Then we'll just unite it and then select the corner and get rid of that shape. So we have most of this created right now. Like that. Let's do his eye, and then we'll focus on cleaning it up and building the rounds in. By the way, ravens are cool. Actually, I like crows too. Okay, here's a funny story. My mom's in her 80s now. She's not doing too hot right now. Kind of sucks. We weren't able to see her for Christmas because she just didn't feel very good. And so that kind of sucks. But my mom's hilarious. She's an artist. She's the one that encouraged me ever since I was a little kid. I think that would look good as an eye. Not distinctly mean, but not just a circle. She would go in our backyard. And our backyard where I grew up had all these trees, fir trees. I lived in the Pacific Northwest up by Seattle. And my mom still goes in the backyard when she does yard. This is how nuts it is. My mom's like the Energizer Bunny. She's in her 80s, but she'll still do a whole day's yard work. And I'm not talking light yard work. And I'm going, Mom, why don't you just hire somebody to do that for you? I'm not I'm not paying that. And but she goes out there and there's these crows in the tree. And so my mom starts crowing like a crow, and she gets all these crows start showing up one time, and they're just going off, and she's like keeps parroting them, and is hilarious. It's pretty funny. Okay, so these runes, now that I'm looking at this, I have an idea. I think we're gonna go ahead and unround this because I'm thinking it looked kind of cool, and it might give us more space for to work these runes. Runes. I keep wanting to say ruins like archaeology, but it's runes. I kind of like that because Nordic is Vikings, and Vikings use shields, and it kind of looks like a shield. So I think that'll work well. I might make this a little taller though, just a little bit. Something like that. Okay, so on these runes, I'm going to cheat a little bit. We're going to go to, I'm just going to turn off these layers. We're going to go to my, and I'm kind of giving away some of the stuff here, you'll see really quick. But notice I had built these, so if I go into this group, I can grab these strokes because I already created some of the runes. I'm just going to copy them. I'll show you that layer a little later. And we'll paste it into this place. And let's get these out of the way. Actually, I don't think we need those anymore. Let's just put those in the vector junk drawer. Okay, so this one is courage, like that. This one is love, like that. So maybe we put them, let's select this, focus on it, and go aligned, like that. And then I can back it out of that corner and figure out a good spacing, kind of like this. I can go ahead and clone that, go to the reflect tool, find a central anchor point, reflect that one over. We're going to color this one just so we can see it. Select that, select this, and we'll just center that one right there so it's in the same position. Still not sure. Oh, no, I can't do it that big. It wouldn't look right. Let's move these down. Maybe it would look better. Nah, they look out of place down there. I'll try that. I might end up changing my mind later, but we'll try that. This guy we don't need. We can just delete it. Okay. So it's at this point, I would select everything here. I'd clone it, Command-C, Command-F, group it, and then I would just move this to my vector junk drawer layer. So I can always come back to it and always refine it. We can turn off our sketch now. And we're just going to focus on kind of cleaning up the vector art so we have our final design. So let's go ahead and I'll zoom in just a little bit. Actually, on these, I'm just going to go outline stroke. And let's go unite. You can see, this is why at times, you see when you select things, you get all these corner widget. This is where a feature gets in the way. And I never liked how this was. So you always want to know you can go here and you can go hide corner widget. That way you never have to run into that. So if it ever gets in your way, you can just hide that feature and then you don't accidentally round stuff. That's the other thing I don't like of how they implemented it. So we'll just remove the anchor point we had there. Okay. I think that's fine. We'll go ahead and color this. The brand colors are pretty simple, black and this kind of, I'm calling it mead gold. It's just a goldish orange, has more red in it. We'll take this shape, bring it to the front, Select this shape, minus front, and now we have that clean build. Now that we have that, I can offset this. Oops. Oh, I think we use, well, let's see. We'll go here. Was that the size? I don't remember now. See, this is why I save stuff, because I do this all the time. It's like this, just to be safe. Okay, now we'll go back to the head. We'll go offset, and we'll paste. Okay, it was the same. Okay, we'll fill it so you can see it. It's on top, and we'll trim this so we get that same gap on the back. That looks good. We can select the legs in those shape, unite them together. Select these. How did I have that on my sketch? Okay. I guess we're going to need, let's make that the same thickness. Okay. Here's what I'll do. I'll just make a copy of this. Select these two anchors. Snap it there. That's enough. Take this. I'm going to make a copy of these. I'm just going to put it here. Usually when I do this, I'll just, nope. I'll name it temp. And this is another thing that you can't really control, but cartographers love all these colors. I just use medium blue, so I wish I could set that by default, but you can't. They don't. It just goes to whatever order it's in. Because on this one, I'm going to select this, bring this to the front, select this, and minus front. So now this is just a shape. We could fill it if we wanted to, but I'm going to offset this. Same gap we used, like that. Let's go ahead and fill it. Bring it to the front. Select the shield and minus front because we want that gap since the bird is sitting or standing, sitting, whatever you call it. Birds don't sit. They always stand. They're always standing. They never get to rest. I never thought about that. Okay. So he's kind of standing on the bottom edge of this seal, and then his feathers are busting out. So I think that looks really, really good. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to select all of our magenta shapes that make up the primary aspect of our design. I'll unite them with Pathfinder to fuse everything together. And it's going to revert to a group. So I always make sure that this is a compound. And then we can go to the brand color. It's just going to be black. So like that. And we're going to do some detailing with the rounding tool. And this is the part that is kind of fun. Now, let's double check our sketch. Actually, what I'm going to do, because I'm just going to make a copy of this like this, move it over here, maybe put it right there, and then make it 100% and move it to our build layer like that. And that way I can reference it as we're going along. Move this over kind of like that. Okay, so you can see I rounded the back of his head, but I want to round this too. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. And oops, we have the corner widget thing turned off. So we'll have to go back and turn that on so we get access to it. We can add that round in here. So all these rounds I'm going to show you, you can do it with the corner widget. So I'm going to select these because I think the top right of each of these feather pieces, I want to round exactly the same. So if you select all of those with the corner widget, then we can just round them all the same like that. That looks fine. But on the bottom left of every shape, I don't want that round to be, at least I don't think so. We'll try it less than what we did on the opposing corner. So I'll select all these shapes, including the back part here. And all these, I think I want this to be lesser, something like that. And I think I like that. that's something I'd probably go back to if I didn't, but I think that's going to work. Now, the other part I want to do is subtle rounding. Subtle rounding is something that your client will never notice. Most people will never notice, but I think it buttons up vector art because vector art is clean, hard edge shapes. Everything comes to a dagger sharp corner. So I like making it more, how do I put it? Adding humanity to vector art. That's what I say when I use textures. It adds humanity to vector art. It's less perfect and it looks more personal. And I think it looks more handcrafted if you take the time to do this. So I'll select everything and I'll go Unite, go to Appearance, make sure it's a compound path. Now, this is where you're going to run into an issue when you use rounding because sometimes it won't want to round these corners like this one. We'll see if it lets us round it, and I think it will. And this is where I like to use the Astute Graphics dynamic corners because I don't have to select an anchor. I can have it just unselected art, select the dynamic corners tool, hover over an anchor, and it says, do you want to round it this much? And you can see what it's showing. Well, no, I want this to be very subtle. So that's all I'm doing is adding these small little rounds. Now it remembers that last setting. I can go to this one, but notice on this one, we have 2 anchor points here. And this is in Illustrator is one of the most frustrating parts of Illustrator. And I can't get the Illustrator team to realize why this is frustrating. If you go to the Pathfinder options here, click on it. Notice I have checked remove redundant anchor points, but it doesn't always remove them. You're going to run into this. And then on this one, it won't round. So I could go here. Notice the corner widget doesn't show up because it can't. There are 2 piggybacking anchor points. So how do you fix this? Well, it's not an easy fix. I don't want to destroy this curve I have going here. So we'll figure out which way. Okay, it's that curve. So on this, I'll go 2 nudges to the right using my numerical keyboard. It's the arrows to the right of your main keyboard. And I'm just going to nudge this one. Well, we'll just do 1 to the right. Then on this one, I'm going to go to I'm going to try something. I'm going to go transform, arrange, that is, and bring to front. Then I'm going to push this back into place. Select this. No, it's... See, if I snap it here, it's telling me it's right on top, but even Astute's plugin isn't detecting the remove anchor point. So sometimes I'll have to zoom in. You can see it doesn't look like it's right on top. It looks like it's right below, actually, here. So you can't even trust Illustrator at times. So if I put this in the right position, now notice the smart remove function is showing up, and this is where I can just click this now, and it will resolve it. So now if I click on this, yeah, it's given us that rounding ability. Once again, you can't fix this this easy without a plugin. It's just the way Illustrator is, and as much as I've pointed this out I've just stopped pointing stuff out because they don't do anything about it. That's how frustrating it gets. That's why I offered to be part of their team for 4 years to fix all of these annoying little things that people run into all the time and they never address. Nope. So whatever. So I'll go here and I'll apply the same rounding here with the corner widget. And you can see as we zoom out, it still comes to a point, but it's not that dagger sharp point. And that's why I like doing this. I think it adds a nice aesthetic. And I'll just go to other corners like these and just apply those same rounds. The interior ones I don't do. It's just the exterior points like this. But the interior ones, I leave those sharp. That's fine. Like that. I'll go here and here. This one and this one. And you could say, well, you could just select those and use the corner widget. But in order to see this, you have to be closer and to control it, and then you can't see all the other ones you have selected. So that's why I love this tool. It bypasses the, I wouldn't say wrong implementation that Adobe chose, just not a very great implementation of a feature. They could have done a lot better. And I'll go ahead and round all of these sharp vertices like this. Go into all these areas. And we'll go down to here. Did I do that? No. We'll do that one. We're going to do this one, and this one, and this one. We'll go here and here. Oops, wanting to, we might have to unite these again. Yeah, on this top one, these ones it didn't have a problem with. So I'll come back and fix those. So even on these areas where it's leaving the container shape we have the raven in, we're going to put little rounds on there. Once again, will anybody ever notice that? No, we'll do it up here, just the top corners. And we'll select this. Now I'll go, it's still remembering those rounds. Now I can go back and round these. So I had to break that compound path in order to do that. And that's what I meant earlier when I said Illustrator doesn't like compound paths. I don't know why it has an issue with it. But those are all the little rounds I do. Now, the last thing I do before we color this and work out our type is I go in on these as well. And so those little rounds I put on everything, these still come to a point, but I'm going to go in and add that same level of rounding just where they terminate on these shapes for these rune designs. Like that. And if you notice, these runes look a lot like the Bluetooth logo. Well, that's where they got it from. It's based off of Nordic runes, the logo is, and that's why it looks like a rune, because fundamentally it's using the same type of design. Like that. And I think that's going to look good. So we got that. We can get rid of that sketch. I think the last thing I want to do, well, let's do color. So we'll turn on this because I saved this shape and the outside shape. I don't think we need the outside shape. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'll give it a shot anyway. We're going to inset this by putting a minus in front of this. And I'm going to try something here. Then I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the initial shape, put it in my vector junk drawer. We'll go to the brand colors. We're using this gold, so I'll go ahead and drop this in. Copy, paste, Command B, paste behind. And I kind of like that. I think I'm not sure about the runes. I have those in one of the other designs, so maybe I might not show them in this one. I just think I don't like how close they come. I kind of like how this bleeds off like this. Because ultimately I could take this shape. Let's go ahead and experiment. So I could go ahead. Why am I leaning forward? Because I can't see my keyboard the way I have it set up in my booth. So we'll go ahead and clone this. And actually, we don't need to do that. Let's get rid of that. We'll just go to Object. We're going to go up. Let's couldn't remember again, so that's why I keep that. Okay, now we're going to go to Object. We're going to go to Offset. And instead of mitering, we're going to go to Round. That means as it gets to cornered shapes, it'll make a nice round. It's more forgiving, I found, doing it that way. And we're just going to punch in the number, and we can preview it. That's fine. I'm going to click into this, Command A, deselect the outer shape, delete all the inner shapes. Go get out of isolation mode. We can just go back to our graphic styles, apply an outline to this, and we've just created an outline. Then I'll just edit this because this one, I'm going to edit here. Go to that extend path tool. Boy, on this design, I'm using it way more than I normally do. But you can see just that little edit. It's so much faster than trying to do it natively. And then I can just get rid of all these anchors between these anchor points and just go remove. So it's just straight down there. That looks fine. Select this and go unite. Now if I, just so you can see it, let's color it this light blue, get rid of the outline, copy it, paste it behind this shape. So if I wanted this to work on a dark background, I could just make it white and that'd work good. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm going to toss these runes. I'm just going to move them to the vector junk drawer. I think that looks good. So let's focus on the type. Now, once again, the name of this brand is Norwegian. So I always, or Nordic, not, is that Norwegian? Nordic. Anyway, think Vikings. And this is their name. Kjeldjard. I should have wrote this down because he explained how you pronounce it, and there's 3 ways you can pronounce it, but pretty unique name. But Kjeldjard Mead is their name, and I already have this worked out for one of the other designs I'm going to show you. I really liked it. I did a stack version and just horizontal. And this started with a typeface, an existing font, but I went in and customized things just to make it look better. I do that almost every time I create a logo type. So here, standard font typed out. This is a letterhead fonts, a really great foundry. You might want to check it out. They have a lot of really nice fonts that are, I don't want to say retro, but they based off of old styling, and for certain projects they're ideal. This one I wanted to use this specific one, but I didn't like how shallow the K top was, so I revised it to make it this way, and this just shows a comparison of how I altered that. So I do that at times because when it was so shallow, it just left a lot of dead space here. So I wanted to pull this top part in to close in that dead space a little more. And I improved it here, but after looking at it, I didn't like it being so condensed. So I went back in, edited again to make it, you know, less condensed typeface like this. So we're going to try this one. I don't know if I'm going to like it with our design. I'll just paste it into place and we'll see what it looks like. Here's a little trick I do is I'll go to the right side to the flat part. Then just like a typeface, letter O, letter S, like that, that exceeds the baseline or the X height of the typography. Because if you make it the same size, those letter forms will look smaller. So I keep that in mind, such as with this D. And I'll just put this on top, select this, and I'm just going to mask it into that shape. Why did I do that? Because I can come down here with Command U on, snap it to this side, scale it, snap it to this side, bring it up, unmask it, and now it's going to be aligned. If you try to use the alignment tool, you just you're going to be killing yourself because it won't work because it's going to use the outermost edge of whatever shape that is. I don't think that looks bad. It's okay. I'd rather it all be on one line. So we're not going to use that. I'll go ahead and move that back to the type layer. Let's go back to the type. I'll put that over here. I think I want it to be all in one line. So I'm going to try, I don't like these blocks. I'm going to make those circles at the top here, but I do like this one. So let's copy that one. Go here, paste it. Now, I haven't adjusted the kerning at all. All I did is outline the typeface. So I think what I'm going to do, make these circles up there. I forget what they call these things. I think it's some kind of accent, but I'm not sure what the official name is. I did a beer can designs for a Slovakian company about 4 years ago, and he had to buy and send me a typeface so it would type out in Slovakian. So he'd give me the text, and then I would. It was interesting because I had to use Slovakian font to pull off the design. It's kind of fun. Now, actually, my adoptive name is Glitchka. My dad, unfortunately, was killed by a drunk driver when I was 1 year old. I was born Von Miller, just like the football player. So my last name is Slavic, Glitchka. Growing up is Czechoslovakian, but then Czech Republic split from Slovakia, and it's more Slavic. So just a little interesting side note. Let's go to Align. People slaughter. I'm used to people slaughtering my name. It just looks hard. It really isn't hard to say, Glitchka. But sometimes I'll write out my last name too fast, and I always do it in not cursive, even though I learned how to do cursive, just uppercase letters a lot. Because back when I took architecture in high school, I kind of like writing stuff out that way, but I get my L and my I too close together, so what it looks like is Gutska. I get all kinds of packaging with that error on it all the time, and that's on me because I go too fast. Now that I'm looking at this typeface kerning isn't that bad at all. I don't think it's that bad at all. I am going to adjust a few things. I think I try to figure out spacing, so I'll snap one edge and I'll just nudge it with the keyboard. So 4 looks good. And this one, maybe a little closer. Now, if you're a typophile watching this, you're, oh, what is he doing? Don't do that. Sorry. I don't care about, there are certain rules that type people say, you don't track out your typeface. Sorry, but it just looks better on certain design motifs to do that. So, and my opinion, if something looks better and it breaks a rule, then guess what? Break the rule. And trying to do this with the typeface itself, I hate kerning like this. I find this way easier. Yeah, I think this kerning's going to look better. Okay, now let's go ahead and pair it with the mark. We'll go ahead and go to Pathfinder, unite it. This is this width, so I'll copy that. Paste this, make sure you have proportion clicked. Paste it in. Oh, that's pretty close. That barely even changed. You know, this would be a good type lockup as a secondary thing. So what I'm going to do is just, actually, let me do some first. Go like this, and I'm going to snap this to the top edge. I'm going to save this. I'm going to clone it, group it, and just move it to my X layer. And by the way, we haven't saved anything, so I'm going to save right now just in case Illustrator says, I don't like your design, I'm going to crash on you. Okay. This is how I'd handle the type if it's a secondary element as part of the whole brand package. I think the type needs to be bigger. So we save that. So what I'm going to do is make a copy of this. Then I'll get rid of this. Don't need it. Get rid of that. Don't need it. And I think it'll look better if we do a stack version. So we can line it like this. And bring it down. Figure out a good balance. Something like that. Group it. Copy the width. Select this. Paste it. Oh yeah, I think this can look way better. This is the hardest part of doing this over the shoulder thing, because these are the times where I would I think I like it, but you know, an idea I just had that I think's worth checking out is this thickness we have here. Again, this should be the what? Wait, what? Wait a minute. That can't be right. How? What? Now it's telling me this is 9.9999 instead, and we use the offset of 10.001. I'm confused now. Like that makes no sense whatsoever. Okay. Well, hold on. I don't trust Illustrator. That should be a t-shirt. That's a good idea. If I speak at a conference this year, I'm going to get a t-shirt made that says, and wear it during a workshop, says, I don't trust Illustrator. I think that'd be gold. Okay. Wow. How did that, you guys saw me offset it by 10.001, but Illustrator's saying, no, this is only 9. It's close. It's close. It's like nobody'd ever noticed, but it's close, but it's not what I dialed in. Oh. Fine. We'll just go with this. Wow. Okay. Anybody else experienced that before? I know I have, but it's been a while since it's been that blatant. But I'm going to establish this width, and I'll go ahead and mask it. Fine. We'll do the 999 one like this. We'll select this. You can see this width is 10. So we'll punch that in. So now it's 9. We'll cut contents, and I have that set up as F keys, F1 to mask, F2 to cut contents. Why? Because it's a whole heck of a lot faster than always going up here and going to clipping mask and release. Just keyboard shortcuts, man. Saves you so much time. Now, if I go here, okay, so it's a little less, but I might like it. That, you know, it's okay if it's not the complete width of it. We'll just give it a shot anyway. We'll line it. That looks good. Bring it up. Make sure it's 10. Well, should be 10. This is still 9.9999, whatever. Oh, that just irritates me. Yeah, I like the fact that it's the same width as what we have going on in the brand mark, so I'm going to stick with that. I think that does look good. So now what I want to do is I want to show you how I set up a comp. Well, first, this would be vertical. I'm going to create a horizontal one too, so let's go ahead and select this. And move this down. We'll create a horizontal one. We'll line this type so it's flush left, like that. Now this is where I like trying to figure out how to associate it with the logo. Now we could take our brand mark here. Technically, we don't need the white around it, but I'm just going to leave it there so I don't have to recreate it or whatever. We could go like this. I like that the bird's kind of looking over to the name of sorts. Figure out a nice balance. So we could do something like this. I almost think it might look better if we do that. And I always have to zoom out to see if I like that. I think that's okay, but now that I moved it down, I think that looks good, but I just think it needs to be more. So we'll do something like that. And as I'm looking at this, I think I'm going to give it a little more breathing room above. So we have that one. We have this one. So let's move to my comp layer. And this is actually how I set up most of my comps if I'm working for an agency. Completely different because I adapt to whatever system they have going. They usually have templates they provide me. So this is pretty much, think small business. So I'll turn this on. And this is 8.5 by 11, by the way. I just have that document bounding set up, or turned off, that is. So if you go view, show artboard, this is my artboard here. So we'll go ahead, and all I'm going to do is paste into the, make sure we're on the layer, paste into it, and I bring this into here, and usually I'm going to kind of aesthetically size this one down. So if this is our vertical, I think I accidentally turned something on. No, I guess not. Okay. So I'm going to select this, and I'll go align, and I'll go center just to get it visually center. Here, center. By the way, on alignment, I have it centered to the document I'm working on like that. This can be smaller, so we'll scale this down, kind of like that. Like that. I think that looks good. So I usually show a vertical, a horizontal. Actually, this one I'm going to scale down a little more. I show a vertical, a horizontal, and then I show how it could work on a dark or colorized, or in this case, photographic background. And I usually pick a theme that goes with the genre or industry or services that the branding is being used for. This is based off of Nordic heritage and Vikings, so I have a Viking ship type of image for the dark background. It's just more interesting and a little more intriguing. So we're going to make a copy of this. So I'll just clone it, Command-C, Command-F. We'll bring it down. You can see I have the outline here. So I'm going to try something first. I'm going to click into this, click into isolation mode, just get rid of this. And I'm going to get rid of this. So this is just all black. So if I'm creating, let's say this is the direction they go with, my final brand assets would have a black version that's kind of like this. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same, the same coloring that I used in the photographic image, which is like a dark muted color like this, and I go to, and it's a global color denoted by the right bottom hand corner. So if I click into this, you can see we have global set. And if you have global set, then you can go to the color palette, and this T represents tints. And I always do this, where I show a 3% tint of whatever the background color is of the image that I have the logo on. It looks better, I found, than using stark white. Just something I do. It's my preference, but this is how a simplified reverse version of this logo would work. Maybe nudge it down just a little like that. So this would be one comp that I'll be, well, this is one comp because they haven't even seen this yet. And you're seeing it after they've already seen it. So there's that too. So this is one comp, but I'll show you a couple of the other comps. I actually really like this direction. I like that we didn't put the runes in it. I think it just distracts. I think this is much stronger. And I always love colors together like black and gold or black and red. It's always a fun combination to work with, but this is how I'd approach this design. Here's another one that I did. This one was based off of the idea of a raven. I just handled it in a different style based off of some of the feedback he gave me. And I think this one's pretty interesting as well. We use the runes in this one. But I have to say my personal favorite is this one because I love the concept behind it. They're making mead. It's all based off of honey. So I have the hive as the Vikings helmet. So my fingers are crossed that they'll go with this one. I think it has an element of humor to it, but it's still sophisticated and very memorable. So I think this will be a great one if they go with it. I really hope they go with it. This is my favorite one. Then I'd probably pick the one I just built, and then the other one would be my third. I might do a fourth one. We'll see. And if I go to my X layer, I just want to turn this on because this just shows as I'm building where I store stuff. Now, because they're doing mead with a bee that makes honey, I have these from old projects that were never used, so I might change one of these. I don't just want it a bee. I wouldn't want this spark thing in it because that was based off of, it was learning software or learning curriculum for kids, so that's why Spark was in it. But I think I might be able to take this one and kind of give it, like make his head a Viking helmet instead. So immediately they read B, but then they're, well, wait a minute, its head is like a Viking helmet. I don't know. I don't know if that'll work, but that's how I'll recycle old artwork. But probably the one I like the most that I really hope they go for is this one. So Now, technically, I'm recording this before I present it to my client, like I referenced earlier. And that said, by the time I post this on People of Process, the project is already going to be wrapped up. So that's not an issue whatsoever. Remember, the exercise files for each of my People of Process movies can always be accessed via a link below this video. And the over shoulder, the exercise files are always free. So I encourage you to download them and try building this design yourself. Now, I won't be including my design directions, the other ones I showed you, that is, in those files, because I want to keep those close to vest. But you can access the sketch and build it yourself. It's not going to cost you anything. And it's always good to practice the methods you see in my videos because you're going to improve your creative process. A big thank you to my channel members, subscribers, those who give my videos even a like, or those who share my videos or share a link to my channel on YouTube. All of that helps me to grow this channel and continue to make unique content for you. So I really do appreciate it. I encourage you to have a comment, or if you have a comment or a question, I always respond to those, and it's always fun because you guys bring up things I hadn't even thought about. So make sure to do that. For this video, if you have any comments, suggestions, or if you think, why do you do it this way? Tell me how you do it. I'm open to that. There's one user who would be a really good content editor because she's always catching stuff. Well, did you know about this? And I'm like, what? No, I didn't know about that. So I'm not too old to learn. So don't worry about it. Just share and ask questions. I'd love to talk with you. Until next time, thank you again for watching People of Process. And as always, I hope this content helps you to improve your own creative process.